Patty Porter.
James Conley.
Walker Glasgow.
Sean Miller.
Randy Vanella, School Board Rep.
Chip Puzzy, Selectman Rep.
Mark Connolly.
Kibby Booker-Dukel. Kristen Cyphers.
There is enough of a quorum, okay? I'd like the school people to introduce themselves, please, so we can have it on record.
Allison Berrios.
Okay.
Pat Walsh.
Thank you very much so far. I'd like to have a motion on the minutes of the last meeting. Have you all read them?
Yes.
Okay. Somebody make a motion to accept.
I make a motion to accept.
Do I have a second? Okay. Any discussion? Nothing on that? The first budget we're going to take care of is going to be the town budget. Because Amy asked if we could start with hers later. I said, when you get here, we'll do yours. So she said she'd be here like 7 o'clock. The draft that I've given to you, okay, has got nothing to do with tonight's meeting. This is for the public hearing.
You can go right by that if you want to do it for the review of the budget as well.
Okay, well.
It's the same numbers in your budget book.
It is, okay. All right, then we'll use that.
And if you make any changes tonight, then I'll make those in
Yep.
this for public hearing.
Yep. Okay, so we can start on page 2 and go down the list. If there's anything there that you feel that we should discuss or any opinions, we'll discuss them tonight.
Just a question.
Go ahead.
This document here, is it different from what we've been looking at? Okay.
Same.
No, it's the totals by department.
Okay.
And that's the DRA form that we have to use for public hearing.
Okay.
So by taking a look at it tonight, and I can actually guide through if you want, that it'll make you comfortable with what is going to be presented that night.
Okay.
Because we don't create that whole book for every resident.
I see.
Bob, do you want me to help on that?
Yeah, if you'd like to, I appreciate that.
Okay, the first section is executive. The only change in there was the 3% increase to employee wages. The next account down, election registration and vital statistics, that's the account at $69,210. And that is the increase with 3% increase to the employee wages for 2 people and the increased number of elections in 2018. That's because we have the state primary and the general election in 2018. The next account down is financial administration. That's actually has a decrease in that line item. And that was due to assessing. I just reduced assessing a little bit because the revaluation falls on a separate line for DRA. So then account 4152, revaluation of property, that's the $36,000 that it did not occur last year, that's once every 5 years. The next account is legal expense, and we decreased that from $35,000 to $30,000. We have the warrant article that was approved last year for $75,000 for Coakley expenses, and that has only been used for a tiny bit for, I believe, an engineering report. So that money is available, and we don't have any other large lawsuits pending.
Good.
Can I ask, why was it reduced from 30 to 35 because we passed the 75 for Coakley?
Yeah, it's been 35 for several years.
Okay.
And every year the budget committee's tried to, let's reduce this to 20, because it doesn't get used.
Okay.
And I wasn't comfortable with a reduction in those years because I had no other place for legal funds.
But now that we have this.
Now that I have the Coakley one as a side, I can only use it for Coakley legal or engineering.
Okay.
I'm comfortable with 30 for at least this year, because there's nothing pending.
Okay.
Personnel administration has the large increase. That's the account that went from 703,000 to 810,000. The key changes in that area is New Hampshire retirement. That rate increased as of July 1st for 2017, so that has the full year of that rate. And this is where the 3 positions that were added to health insurance show up, the 2 firemen and the 1 secretary in the police department. And it shows the New Hampshire retirement as the 2 fire lieutenants. The secretary was already on there. It doesn't end up showing because we added 3 people, but health insurance rates decreased by 6.2%. The next account down, planning and zoning, absolutely no change. General government buildings, just a small change, and that was the work we're doing planning for 18 came in a little bit less than what we did in 17. 17 we changed all the windows on one end of the building, and we're looking at some additional for this year. No change to cemeteries. Insurance is a slight increase, and that was just a rate change for our property liability and workers' comp coverage. Advertising and Regional Association, just a slight increase in the dues for the Rockingham Planning Commission. They base it on population. Other general government is no change, and that's like the trustee of the trust funds, the cemetery trustees. It's a few small little boards. Then we jump down to police, and that account goes from 795 to 807, and that increase is based on the 3% wage increase. And then that's where the clerical position from 35 to 40 hours, that's where those extra 5 hours show up there. Ambulance is a $1,000 increase from $13,860 to $14,860, and that was an increase primarily in medications and the use of Narcan. Fire is the largest increase in the budget. That is going to $354,000 to $441,501, and that is it's an overall increase of $87,000, providing the coverage of the 2 full-time lieutenants. The station will now be manned, with 2 people, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and overnight coverage 7 days a week. The overnight coverage isn't always in the station, but it has to be within a very close radius. And the town had MRI, Municipal Resources, do a full study of the department, and that is one of the first steps they've recommended, is getting the 2 full-time lieutenants in place to oversee the operations. Building inspection is the next account. That's a decrease, and that decrease was the result of the one-time purchase of the software for the GIS that you can go online now and like zoom in on your house and all that. That was a one-time purchase, and there isn't an annual maintenance fee either. So we were able to reduce that budget. Emergency management, no change. That's generally been $25,000 for many years, and we received that back from the state because we are within the radius of the Seabrook Complete Plan. Highways and streets is an overall reduction of $10,000, and that was mostly because of equipment purchase that we're not making this year. There was a Harley rake there. I increased snow removal by $30,000. But the other decreases kind of compensated for it, and we were able to increase the paving line to $200,000 from $175,000. But overall, it's a decrease. Sanitation.
Can I interrupt really quickly here? This might have been a conversation for another meeting earlier, but has a conversation of street lighting ever come up in this forum before? Yeah. As in, like, more street lighting? More street lighting, no. Street lighting was just changed this year to LED so that they're all brighter. Street light locations are determined whether it's an intersection or a sharp curve. And that's generally where all street lights are placed. It has to be an intersection or a sharp curve. Okay. And so I kept that budget actually flat at the $17,000. Because we're getting a grant from Eversource to pay the balance of this LED conversion first of this year. So
hopefully we'll start to see that actually electric go down. So that's under highways and streets. Under sanitation, that's from 212 to 218,000, and that is just a small increase due to the tipping fees that we pay to EcoMaine and, not EcoMaine. No, Haverhill. Where do we?
Torino.
No, there are trash transporters. What's the name of it? Covanta. I couldn't think of it. We send it to an incinerator in Haverhill, Covanta, and there's a small increase of the tipping fee there. And we don't do water, we don't do electric. Health agencies, hospitals, that increased from 36.8 to 39, and that is the result of a request for an increase from Ritchie McFarland Health Center based on the number of children and the inclusion of Seacoast Family Promise. They were a warrant article last year, and once they pass the warrant article process, if they request, they get included right into the budget, so they don't have to do a warrant article every year.
How many years is that? For how many years?
As long as they keep requesting, and then they request the funds after it passes. If an agency sends us a request for $1,000 and throughout the calendar year they never request that we release those funds to them, then they get dropped. Welfare is flat at 43,802. Culture and recreation has an increase from 335,000 to 374,000. It's like a $39,000 increase. 3,000 of it is a new line item for the town's 300th celebration, to start some work on that. 31,000 is the increase to the library's operating budget, and then recreation increase of 4,500 for their capital improvement to do some fencing at Maloney Field. Conservation and development, no change. And debt service, a slight reduction because through the amortization schedule, what we pay in interest drops every year. So it's an $80,000 principal bond. This is the Dearborn Road Caswell project, and interest drops to $13,000 this year. So overall, the budget that will go to, unless you make any changes, the budget that will go to public hearing is $4,458,347, and that, I think I marked. I think that's a bit earlier. But it's $279,730 increase over 2017. The current town tax rate, town portion is $3.38. This budget actually came in at $3.30. So there's 8 cents that can be used for a flat rate for any other warrant articles. And then anything else beyond that 8 cents is a slight increase. And these are based on conservative numbers for property valuations.
Karen, what kind of things are involved in that celebration of Greenland?
It's just getting organized. There was another organization meeting scheduled last night. I think they've had 2 meetings, but it's in 2021. And so they're looking at, getting started with some fundraising, getting a logo going, probably have a town fair, maybe fireworks, a concert.
So is this going to be like $3,000, $3,500 every year until that year comes?
I don't think so. I think that's the startup money that they needed to get things started so that they have seed money.
It comes once every,
100 years? I don't know.
200, 300 years.
We don't have to worry about the next one.
Yeah, you're right.
I wouldn't be so sure about that.
Bob will be here.
Yeah, I hope to. Thank you, Karen.
Okay.
Question.
Any questions? Yes.
I don't remember the budget committee making any changes, but I was just wondering, what's the difference between the budget committee's recommendations and the selectmen's? For the police?
During the budget reviews, the police department had changed phone systems, so they requested an increase to their budget for the phone system.
Okay.
The
selectmen did
And I think, well, it hadn't they hadn't done it at that point. And I think there was another small change that Chief Lorena requested. That was like $160 or something, for some other thing that had come in, I think the generator, I don't remember. But yeah, it was new things that came forward from the police department after the selectmen.
That's a 6.7% increase request, is that right? Did I have that right?
I think that's where it started, I think it's less than that.
Anybody else have any questions?
So are we good with these numbers to move forward to public hearing?
Yes, we are, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay,
Okay, thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Charlotte, we just had some late entries coming in. I'm going to have them introduce themselves so we can have it on record. The four people, I believe, in the school board that just came in, would you kind of give us your name? Yes, you too.
Amy Ransom, Assistant Business Administrator for SAU 50.
Tamara Halley, Principal, Greenland Central School. Tegan Von Byrne, Assistant Principal, Greenland Central School.
Carla Rice, Special Ed Coordinator, Greenland.
Thank you very much.
And, well, these are the warrant article drafts.
Nothing
Take-
else?
To hand them out at the end of the meeting,
Yes.
just so you guys have time to read them before public hearing on Tuesday.
Yes.
On Monday night, the selectmen will get them to vote to recommend or not recommend, and the budget committee can't do that until they've made their recommendation.
So, I'm curious.
Yep.
Where it says budget committees appropriate.
I have the form requires me to fill in the blank.
Okay.
So, to get the numbers to balance, it says
Even
budget
for the
committee.
warrant article?
Yes,
Yeah.
it says budget committee and selectmen have recommended. That's only so I could get my draft printed out.
I know the exact same thing that happens on mine. I have to put something
Yeah,
in, so
you can't leave it blank.
it won't let you.
Okay. Okay, now we'll look at the school budget. The,
I have some handouts.
you have some handouts?
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you, Andy.
And I just wanted the committee to know that I spoke to Mr. Petralia, and he is at another meeting, but he will be coming here momentarily. So I just wanted the budget committee to know.
Just one. Just one.
Sorry.
Can't set the great chair. Get the hot seat.
Yeah, there's no-
Just one on that one.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
So what's going around the table is the average operating budget increases. It's over 10 years, but I have that on there for 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years, just so you can see how much the operating budget has grown for the Greenland. The colorful page that's going around is reflective of the school board's recommended cuts. And Randy will go over that.
Like the grants?
I can-
Randy's gonna go over it? Okay. all right.
I just want to let you know what's coming around. And then the third page is coming around with just the green header, breaks down what those recommended cuts are.
Okay, that's it.
And then the last one is the warrant articles. Again, it's probably due to put in a number and whether or not it's recommended, but I do know that the board still has to. Pardon? The warrant article one should be coming around. There should be, oh, right there.
Yeah, 3 sheets in the warrant article. Everybody have their sheets? Okay. Randy, would you like to tell us what happened?
Again,
You would, please?
sure. So Amy did a nice job putting this together. Thanks, Amy. So just to just give you a history of the, obviously the operating budget increases we've had, so that's there for your reference. So let's talk about, we can look at this one. That's basically the cuts. So as you know, the budget committee took a vote, requested to look at budget cuts of around $200,000. So the school board reconvened and discussed some of the programs or things that we can cut. And as you can see, we're not quite at $200,000, but this is what our recommendations are. So first is $5,000 from the life skill supplies. So part of the life skill program was going to be discontinued due to the middle school structure changes that we're anticipating. This will basically discontinue the cooking program we have at GCS today. We also felt that this was okay because these programs are offered at the high school level, as well as extracurricular outside. We took $2,500 from the assemblies, which is some opportunities that we may be missing on where we bring in some extra speakers for the schools. Like, as you know, this past year we did Rose bullying, right?
Yep,
Sticks and stones. Yep. So those are the things that we're willing to sacrifice in this regard. Club supplies, we basically just brought that down to a flat budget, so $1,000 from there.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
What kind of clubs?
Show fire, camera,
Show choir, we have a Mouth Counts Club, things like that.
Just curious.
Yep. We decided to eliminate the library media books budget for this year. We've had history of generosity from the GPO and the community where they've donated or come up with fundraisers for books. So we felt that we could make do with that this year. We eliminated $15,000 from the tech hardware replacement. As you remember, a lot of this has to do with some of the laptops for the teachers. We had a number of laptops that are really out of date. But we felt that we could do a kind of a phased approach over the next few years and reduce the number that we will be replacing next year. So $15,000 out of the technology.
Question. Seems I can recall in years past, maybe Patrick will know because he was on the committee. When you replace the laptops, you took the old ones and you sold them, or you
Recycle.
Yeah, basically recycle, scavenge,
Recycle.
any key parts we can.
Oh, okay.
There's not much value to that.
Okay, just curious.
Actually, we're lucky we don't have to pay to get them.
Yeah, okay.
Actually, more.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, Chris does a nice job collecting some of the parts just to have some replacement parts handy in the event of breaking things. Since the last time we've met, the SAU had a decrease in their budget, so the Greenland share of the budget has come down. So as you can see, we're going to have a savings of $14,900 there. We've decided to push off some of our maintenance objectives to forward in years, so we thought we could take out $10,000 there. We talked about reducing some of our athletic trips and putting some more of the cost on the parents. So reducing $4,800 from the athletic trips. And the same thing goes with the field trips, $5,500 there, where some of the additional costs could be picked up from fundraising or GPO activities, but also burdened on the parents. So we had a total GCS budget reductions of $63,093.79. So it's just similar to what we did last year, where we've acted on taking dipping into our reserve balance for our tuition. And as we discussed last time, we basically had a buffer of 10 students. If we had an increase of 10 students going to the high school, we had enough money there to cover the tuition. We've decided to reduce that in half and put $90,000 back into our operating budget and in effect, reducing our reserve, which is what we did last year as well. So that brings us up to a total cost of $53,000.
Any questions?
There's been no other changes in positions or anything like that?
No, we did, as we discussed, right, we were optimizing one of our positions we have today. The enrichments program is going to turn into a full-time unified arts teacher. So we did do some optimization there, but we're still in belief to have a full-time teacher for the 5th grade, so we can bring that back into the elementary structure, and a new teacher for the 7th and 8th grade to improve on the middle school education that we have. So keep in mind that class size will, with the extra teacher, the class size will be 17 to 18 kids per class.
Randy, can I ask?
Yes, you can, go ahead.
Can you give us some perspective on the numbers here? Out of this budget, at the top of the budget, what are Greenland Central Schools and Portsmouth High School combined? What are our contractual obligations from this budget? Like what are non?
90% is discretionary. Amy would know better. Discretionary side is pretty
It's
high.
all in the default budget.
It's all in the default budget. As far as what's between
Which we have.
Greenland and Portsmouth High School, that tuition line right here is really not negotiable. However many children Greenland ends up sending to Portsmouth is what Portsmouth will bill you for. So,
Which line is that in?
you look at the same color right here at the bottom, it says tuition to PHS.
Yep.
So that's going up from the current year's operating budget to next year's is $370,160. That's the contractual obligation for the number of students we know as of today. So the changes that Randy just went over, just so everybody, is a little clear, those reductions came to $153,093.79. When we take that out of the request, some of them came out of the default, such as the SAU portion, because that's the default number, so it's a blend between the two areas. The new operating budget comes to $10,790,638, an increase of 7.41% over the current year's operating budget, or $743,996.
So also, if we have an increase of students from last year to this year, those 20-ish kids or however many it ended up being, that's also like a non-negotiable increase. So that those numbers can't be taken out. Like, we have to put those in, correct? Right. So we have to take that.
Yeah, all these cuts are made with reservations, right? We're all concerned about the reserve fund. We don't have the luxury that the town has. We only can keep up to 2.5% in what we call our retainage account. As you know, the tuition fund, the special education fund, those were all voted on as warrant articles. But we are playing catch up. We've done the last couple of years now. We're playing catch up on the tuition fund. We took a big hit last year because we dipped into the reserve fund, and as you can see, we had $370,000 impact because of the new kids that came in and what we cut last year. So again, it's significant, right? So now we're going to give ourselves a five child buffer with that tuition account, and we will be looking to replenish that in a warrant article for next year.
How much, I may ask, how much is left in your fund?
We have a balance of right now it's about 180.
Yeah, it'll be 184 because the board voted at last school board meeting to remove $179,000 from that. It was in the presentation.
Right, and that's our semi-bill. That's our our first bill. We have another one coming.
Yeah. So the current balance is $366,414. They removed $179,000. So when they put back in the balance that was voted from last year, it'll bring back up to that.
And that balance fund can be used for,
Pardon? I'm sorry. There
I
are
said,
too many voices.
that reserve fund balance can be used for what? Anything?
Tuition.
That tuition.
Or just tuition?
That was just the tuition.
Just tuition.
The Portsmouth High tuition.
I'm sorry.
On the previous budget, and this new budget sheet, there's a line down below $44,300.
Yep, that's a warrant article. We haven't gotten to what the board is putting in there for a warrant article yet.
Okay. So
can-
that reduces the net effect of this 150.
Right, we can explain why. If you want me to jump to warrant article, I can jump to.
No,
warrant
I
article.
just wanted to, we can get to that later.
Is there anything else anybody wants to discuss? Any questions? This is what they recommended.
Yeah, where are we going from here?
I'm not quite sure yet, Steve. Depends on what you people want to do.
Okay.
Yes, yep.
A quick question. Randy, did you guys, like model out what the costs on parents for athletic trips and field trips might look like, sort of per parent? Any idea?
No, we didn't. In my personal experience, we're looking at $25 to $30 per trip, perhaps.
Okay.
I don't know, yeah, we don't.
I've got something on the same.
I'm done.
We are gonna look at, so Tamara and her team are also gonna look at trips though to see if there's some opportunities for savings going forward, if all the trips are necessary. So we are gonna do a review of those.
Don, you got a hand raised, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess maybe an answer to Steve's question, if I'm correct in this. Basically, there will not be any definite decision made tonight. We have to go to a public hearing.
Mhm.
And after the public hearing, the board will sit down and make a decision as to what they recommend or don't recommend for
Yeah, next week.
a proposed
Well,
budget to go
we
through the
took
deliberative
motions, we
session.
took motions last meeting, so we can do it again, can't we?
Oh, you can make
Yeah,
motions,
you can make
yes.
a motion if you want.
Okay.
Okay, Randy, what was that? I wanted to question you once. Right here. On athletic trips, let me ask you a question. You have a baseball team, you have a softball team,
Most of the time.
most of the time, and you use regular umpires or parents or what?
We have to pay for officials.
Why? I used to do it for nothing for 15 years.
You're hired.
No,
Yeah, exactly.
I gave you 15 years, no more, honey.
I think you can do that at recreational level, not at a school sanctioned event.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I
Unfortunately,
used to do all the
Yeah, I know.
softball games.
at rec level.
Years.
NHIAA regulates that. They
Oh, I know, I
come up with
belong
their
to them.
schedule. Yeah, and they send your officials to you and you have to pay them.
They big dollars, honey.
50 a game? 50 or
I don't know what they
$75 a
get,
game?
what do
They
they
want
get
to
for
check
a
when
game?
they show up. I'll
Oh,
say
sure,
that.
oh, sure. You don't
I'm not
play and they show up, you're paying them.
Yeah, good. Okay.
I just want to ask, what kinds of things would be reduced in athletic trips? Then, as we have referees need to be paid, what is, I'm just curious.
Yeah, so the assumption the assumption is that some of the teams might not be fielded next year
Okay,
because of participation rates.
okay.
But in some cases, if we have trips needed, then we would reach out to parents or we try to make up
Instead
the
of doing
costs.
a bus.
No, we can't do, we have to do buses.
Buses,
Yeah, parents.
That's not allowed to do that for.
Or we have to up those legal fees.
Why, you fired? Yes.
There might be if you go up a basketball or a baseball and there are outside trips involved, you may have to pay sort of an athletic type fee, $25, or we'll have to do the calculation.
Times have changed.
Karen, would you happen to know what, if they were to reduce this budget by $153,000, what kind of savings would there be on the tax rate? You know, any idea? You know, I mean, it's like $153,000 on a $10 million budget seems, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's very small, right?
But it
So-
would be 13 to 14 cents?
I think it's about 21 cents, isn't it? About 7 cents per thousand. 7 cents per 7,000, is that how it works?
It's different every year based on the town
Yeah,
appropriation. But right, that, it would be,
Between
I know
15
90,000 was 12 cents for, I'd say it was 15 to 17 cents savings.
So from 151 down to minus 17, is that what you're saying? Because that's what they came in with.
I don't know what they came in, this year just
Dollar-
hitting me like from the blinds, I'm
$1.51.
sorry.
$1.51, they said, the budget before they did this.
Anticipated impact, yeah. So they would take about 15 to 17 cents off of that. And then it's all based on what the town valuation comes in at after April 1st anyway.
Yeah, and what revenues the district also gets.
It just seems kind of minuscule. to me.
I-
That's all.
It is.
So I just want you guys to think about that.
It's a large budget.
But can I say something?
Yes, you may, go ahead.
Is fine, but there was no effort to make any reductions in staffing. And that is a major impact into this budget. So if you want to look for dollars, that's where we got to look.
What is debt services?
That's the bond on this,
Okay.
in the school, so it's interest and principal for the bond.
Are you going to respond to that? Excuse me.
Go ahead,
Do you want to respond?
Go ahead, Pat, if you want to.
There was a lot of effort gone into, may I speak, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, you can.
There was a lot of effort gone into headcount reduction. The major driver here is growth, the population of growth and the number of students. We're seeing it in some of the other areas, and you know, I can go through this budget and I can show you 675,000 of it is just for us to maintain what we currently have. Now, why is that? Because we have $370,000 hit on tuition. Why is that? Because we're kicking the can down the road because we're pulling money from our expendable trust to cover the tuition. Now, we did it last year to the tune of $180K. And that was after we assumed 6 kids would not go to Portsmouth High School. So there's another 87.5. And that was also after we had an increase of 36,000 in tuition rates. So really, we haven't done anything with this tuition number in 3 years. So 370K, that's a big kick in the, well, kick wherever you want it, kick in the rear, wherever. But it hurts, you know?
I don't like it as Pat.
No. And then we've lost funding for 2 aides. We have no control over that. We have no control over our special ed costs other than what we can do, and we work very hard at it, and there's a lot of time spent on mitigating those costs. So that we have almost 675,000 in uncontrollable factors. So then you can start talking about the increases. And those increases are 2 teachers because we have growth. Due to students and growth in the classrooms. Tamara invited every one of you to walk around, go into her 6th and 7th and 8th grade classes on a Thursday or a Friday like I did 2 weeks ago. And believe me, those kids are sitting as tight together as you folks are right now for 6 or 7 hours a day. It's not conducive to learning. You know, we have to spread them out. They need some room to learn.
I think I can speak to that as well, and I believe Randy, we both have daughters in the 6th grade. So the model after 4th grade went from 3 teachers to 2 teachers. And, well, two homeroom teachers. And I can just tell you, as the more students come in, there's 26 in her classroom. And I mean this with all due respect when I say this. My daughter said, "Oh, Mom, school's kind of like a zoo. Our class just is like going to a zoo every day. It's so crazy." And it was never like that. I walked in, I substitute teach there occasionally, and I walk into the classroom and it's packed. The 6th grade class likes to collaborate with the younger grades for the immigration simulation that they do. And one day when I was subbing in the 3rd grade classroom, we collaborated with the 6th grade, and there was no room. We had to leave the classroom, go into the lunchroom, and in the hallway spilling out because there
it's really not conducive to learning when you have that number of children in a classroom where you're losing instructional aides, which is another body, and you're losing educators. So, I believe that their effort in getting to teachers is a valid one, and one that the students really, really need in order to be successful. And I'm just speaking from my own personal experience.
Steve, I will say, I was apprehensive about it until I actually got out there and I walked around in the classroom. I had the opportunity to walk around and see what goes on in the classrooms at that time of day. Because, look at the history here, and we've been really trying to keep it roped in. It's a low level of increases, and it's just hitting us this year. Amy can give you a backup sheet on these numbers that I talked about if you folks need clarification on those. But roughly $675K, that just puts us where we were last year.
Yes.
I sort of briefly addressed this point at our last meeting, which is that the quality of a school directly impacts the value of a town's homes. So everything is really very much intertwined here. And part of the quality of a school is not just the teachers and the administration and the students, but a lot of it has to do with test scores. And a lot of the time, students' test scores will go up if the student-teacher ratio is better. And I believe that there's some kind of evidence to show that when the students have a more amicable student-teacher ratio, like they do from K to 4th grade, the test scores are great. And then when you start getting into this kind of tighter student-teacher ratio situation, the test scores tend to kind of even out and get kind of a more on the average plane. Is there any kind of evidence to that? Here at Greenland?
Yes. Sure, just class sizes, Timmy?
The test scores are in vis-a-vis the class sizes.
Yeah, we've done a lot of research, especially with the kindergarten. When we did the kindergarten committee last year, right? There's a lot of research around class sizes being helpful for the lower classes, right? So we've always been very good in Greenland about the K through 4 grades, where we've kept it a class size of average around 16 to 20 kids per class. And our test scores for our 4th graders are off the charts.
Hi.
Very good. Yes, they're very good. We're always in the top echelon of the state, and particularly on the seacoast. What we found is that the eighth grade test scores do come down it's the same 4th grade classes. When they get into 8th grade, those test scores come down. And again, we talked about this before, there's lots of different reasons for that. But one of the things we do believe in is the class sizes. And so we're looking to make some changes with the middle school structures over the next few years, not just next year.
And adding these teachers perhaps could be one of those.
We think this is the first step. We're going to bring our original thought is bring the 5th grade back into the elementary structure, not into middle school. So have a dedicated classroom like 4th grade that does today, and then add a teacher at the 7th and 8th grade level to buffer those additional classes that we have. And this will also give us an opportunity to also focus on another fundamental core subject in either reading, writing, math, and science. So, yep.
That's your question.
Yes, thank you.
Anybody?
Yeah, I'll just add. So I've been on the school board for 3 years. When I was looking to be elected, right, my campaign was around fiscal responsibility. But when I got into the school system, it's a very shoestring budget. It's very tight. It was well overdue and well needed that we needed an assistant vice principal. We had a very large school, K through 8, which is not common in New Hampshire. It was all being run by one administrator, and thank goodness we voted in Teagan that first year. And then after that, we had additional growth. And the town decided we needed to have full-day kindergarten. And that got voted in last year, and that added two additional teachers because of that. And that was overwhelmingly supported by the public. And so this year, we're seeing the same growth and demands on the school system, and we're looking to make improvements. We want our kids to be better. We're not just competing against local Suds and Soda down the street anymore. We are competing globally, and against big companies like Amazon out of Amazon and so forth, right? So we've got a lot of demands of our children going forward, and asking to cut staff just because to cut staff, yes, it's a cost, but it's all about the people. Having the right people in our program will do the best for our children, and that's what we're trying to do here, is be the best for our children.
Can I
comment?
just respond
Okay.
to a point made here?
Go ahead, Steve.
I mean, I'm not asking to cut staff. I'm asking to cut increases in staff. That was my point, not to cut staff. I just wanted to clarify that.
I just
Go ahead, Patty.
wanted to mention, or just combine what everyone has said. I just really think it's the growth. I feel like the school curriculum has, the students are under more pressure. The curriculum has raised since my son went to the school. Now that my daughter has, more is expected of the kids. It's very, very competitive. I feel like the school is at a big disadvantage. I feel like we have a town budget and we have a school budget, but we're one town, and I feel like we really need to look out for these kids in the school. And the school is very, very limited to any revenue other than taxes, and I feel like we really need to support that. I feel I feel like these cuts are sad, that we're sitting here discussing them. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay.
And I'll remind the board as well, especially since we had two absentees last time. Greenland is still the lowest cost per student in the Seacoast area plus Stratham. So we should be investing more in our kids.
Anybody else have anything to say?
No, it just kind of stinks that you gotta cut a program like Sticks and Stones, I mean, that was great, so.
I do want another question.
Go ahead.
I promise, probably my last one. Randy, do you have any idea? I do participate. I spend a lot of time with the GPO, but I don't know a lot about their finances. Do you have any idea what kind of sort of money could be offset by the GPO by the things that you have taken out of the budget here?
I just know they have been very generous when it comes to the books. I don't have the amounts available.
For sure, the books.
Yeah.
Yes, but do you know of anything else? Like, for instance, I know the GPO has 3 or 4. I probably can you answer that? Like, the GPO has like 3 or 4 big fundraisers, and one of them was the one I was really involved with made like $3,500. That was like a lot of money, which isn't a lot of money. So yeah.
I was at a meeting recently, and the GPO is really trying hard to come up with some new fundraisers. They know things are tight, and they're trying to help out as much as possible.
Yeah, I was just saying, how much is this going to hurt? A lot or a little, or can the GPO make up for this? It seems like they could make up here and there, but not all. Certainly not all of what they're asking to take out here.
I think it's. I can tell you that many parents work very hard in volunteering a lot of time to help the school out as much as we can. And there's a lot of hours put into a lot of projects to raise money for the school.
A lot of hours.
Yes, young lady.
And the GPO did fund Sticks and Stones this year, so we tried to put more money in the budget so that we could, take on that responsibility next year. However, they were responsible for that this year.
I'd like to make one comment to what Patty said. I'm not here to make friends, okay? The reason why I am here is I'm concerned about the town. Not only the school, don't get me wrong. I know we need the school, but we also have to take care of the town. And the town is facing a lot of things this year. So I really feel that we gotta take care of both as much as we can. So I don't know what's gonna happen by next week. I'm just telling you that I, for one, I'm still not happy with the results. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, but Mr. Chairman, there was no changes requested of the town. So I just want to say that as well.
The town is just about a flat budget. All it is a 3% increase.
That's almost 7%.
Well,
Karen just said 6 points.
I'll interject here at this point.
Go ahead,
When we're
Mike.
done with the school, I want to go back and revisit the town.
Okay. Anybody else want to say anything before they go back?
Well, so as far as I know, we haven't passed any motion to change
No.
anything over the original. So I'll throw it out there. I make a motion that we accept this proposal, and that's what we present to the town at public hearing.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Anybody want to discuss it?
But this is not a budget are we recommending this budget?
No.
No.
No,
We're just bringing it to the town for the public.
that's right. That's what it's for. Karen, do we have to make a vote on this, on the motion?
You just have to let them know what to take to public hearing, because it's next Tuesday and we need to
Okay.
we're in production mode. Like, this is the last chance to make a change, then you can listen to the public and you'll meet after the conclusion of the public hearing and make changes then.
We'll change it.
Right, now,
But I have to have a starting point.
one of the reasons I made that motion is because if we put a budget out there that's the same as what the school originally gave us, the town's gonna say, oh, everything's hunky-dory. If we put this budget out versus what they originally offered, now the people are gonna say, okay, there's a difference, and have some discussion about what that difference is, what those differences mean, and people can, on an individual basis, decide which way they wanna vote. But if the two numbers are the same, people are gonna say, oh, everything's the same, everything's fine, and you'll get no discussion. That's my feeling.
Move the question.
You want to move the question?
I have a question. The PHS tuition, so you're taking 90,000 out of that. What if we have an influx of students who need to go to PHS?
Yeah, we
The
have
money would have to come out of
come out of the
Fund.
out of the trust fund.
general fund.
And would there be enough?
$185,000.
If you take out 90, the reduction of 90, that would leave us about 94,000, depending on whether or not the warrant article was put forward and passes to add additional funds to the tuition.
How many new PHS students were there last year?
5.
We have a new one today.
Yeah.
Another?
15. We
Come
had,
out of the woodwork.
So a total of 6?
yeah, we had to make up total. We had to make up a total of.
We had to make up a total, Kristen, we had to make up a total of 15 because we took 10 out at the request of the budget committee. And then we actually took 5 out. We kind of rolled the dice a little bit and said, hey, maybe this kid's going to St. Thomas, this one to Berwick. So we went in there down 15 students to start with. So we kicked the can down the road. And,
So worst
catching up
case
with it.
scenario, if we get 8, what will happen?
8 additional students would deplete that account.
And where would we get the money?
We have to find it within the operating budget. We're required to pay that bill.
Okay.
use up the final 94, and then we find the rest within the budget. Hopefully the $75,000 warrant.
Right, we haven't gone over, I'll just, after you're done having discussion, I'll go over the other warrant, just so they understand how that ties, like, if she's asking if we use all of the, talking about what happens, well, we could have an additional 75,000 if the warrant goes through, if it doesn't pass, then so it's kind of trying to answer a question without.
Okay.
So that would be some of our consideration on whether we recommend that warrant article as well.
Well, the motion's been made, so we have to vote upon the motion.
No, I understand that, but I mean, I was just saying when we get, because we haven't talked about the warrant article yet.
No, we haven't.
Sometime we will.
I feel we need to talk about the warrants before we make a motion, because I think that's important. I think it's an important piece to the rest of it.
I'm going to move
the motion.
You want to move the question?
Yeah.
You want to move
May
the
I
question?
just add, just to help clarify, what he has proposed is that this figure go to the public hearing. In the next few minutes, we're going to propose that the warrant articles go to the public hearing.
Okay.
Then the public makes a decision.
Right.
If they want to add this, if they want to take this budget and they recommend, the public hearing majority says this is the budget we would like you to recommend, then
Okay.
we'll have to make that decision
Thank
whether
you,
we
Tom.
recommend or not. And it'll also be the same thing with the warrant articles. So what you're saying here now, you can say at the public hearing and get the support of the public to say, okay, we have to have this $75,000 warrant article to cover any prospective influx into the high school over the next year.
Very good.
So-
Thank you.
Just so you don't think we're not voting anything firm.
No, I know that. I get, but it's
We're
good
just,
to know
we're just
that.
moving this meeting along.
Okay, no, it's good to know that we'll be making a motion if we're bringing this to the town on the
To the
warrant
public
articles.
hearing.
Public
Okay, we'll be
hearing.
doing that
Next
today.
week.
But I thought his motion was this budget less $153,000.
That's correct.
That's correct.
That's what I thought.
That budget.
Well, it's this budget.
This budget
Right,
includes,
as the cut.
Right.
That's the new.
this is the new proposed budget they gave us tonight. That includes these cuts, right?
Right.
And that's less than the budget that we've been talking about for the last.
Did you want to say something, Steve? No. Okay. In order to go back and see that warrant article, you gotta,
Well, no, can we vote on this motion?
that's what I'm saying. He can take his motion away if he wants.
No, let's vote on
You
that.
wanna vote on that?
I
Let's
say
get
we
her
vote
to
on the motion and then
Okay.
we keep that in mind when we talk about the warrant article.
All those in favor of,
Just may I just make one more statement? If you don't like this motion, you can vote no.
Right.
Don't anybody think that all of a sudden we're forcing a
no,
vote down. So if you favor it, you say yes. If you don't favor what his motion is, you're welcome to say no.
But I have a question for you though. I know we have to vote on this motion because it's on the floor and he didn't take it off. But just procedurally, are we allowed to make a motion that would be like, I want to take one thing out of this, like take one line item out of this proposed deduction?
Yes.
You can amend.
Yes, but what you need to do, right now, the budget that they have proposed for you is the $10,798,638. Move that to public hearing. Then you can make another motion to increase that by whatever you don't want to have happen and bring that to public hearing. But, yeah, you really need to get started and start with a number. Sorry.
that's what we're trying to do, is get started with a number.
Okay, I got it.
Not to be argumentative, Karen, but you could also vote no against that motion. You can make another motion if you had another number that you wanted to. As Dawn had mentioned, move to public hearing.
Okay, let's take a vote on the motion. All those in favor of the motion that Mark made?
Aye.
4, 5. 5 in favor, those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I love the pressure. I love it.
We're doing it on purpose.
I think you are. I'm gonna go with the motion. Okay, so motion is 6 in favor, 5 against. Okay, now Pam, if you would like, no, excuse me, Amy, if you would kindly give us,
So really quickly, the warrant articles that are presented, The first warrant article is the operating budget, so that's the number you just moved forward to public hearing. You don't really need to review that. The second one is to replace the fire panel. It's at end of life. This came to our attention between the last budget committee meeting and the school board meeting. Tamara Halley had received some information from Warren and one of the fire inspection companies that our panel is at end of life. So it's not working in some areas at some times. They've had a lot of calls. So the quotes that they've received is $44,300 to replace the panel and the subsequent infrastructure that goes along with it. This kind of ties to the reduction of the $10,000 of our maintenance objective. This is something that has to be fixed. I would like to point out that we are applying to a grant for the Safety and Security Infrastructure Grant that the state of New Hampshire, the Department of Ed is offering. If we receive that funding for this project, this warrant would go away. We just want to, but we're just putting it out there because we do have to do the upgrades to the fire panel. So that's why this warrant article is on it.
Yeah, and the warrant article itself would not go away?
The
Because it
dollar
would
amount
still
would be
need to be
there,
appropriated, but the revenue would offset.
Well, that, I could put that in grants, but we could also, if it happens at deliberative session, we could zero it out.
Oh, you don't have to gross appropriate?
I have it in grants. There's a line for grants.
So it's in two places, okay.
Because we never know what we'll get for grants. So we always raise an amount in grants and have an offsetting revenue, so it's revenue neutral. But we have it, so we can spend it.
Just a note here, so nobody gets excited when they see the two bottom lines that says that the Green and Budget Committee recommends this article.
Right.
She has to put something there. It's not that we have accepted, okay? That's gonna be changed.
Yeah, I can adjust it whichever way it goes. So, but it's just a place carceler because they come out of the system.
Excuse me. Yes, Pat?
Now, just some additional information on the panel itself, because I did go over there and do a little bit of diligence on it. The panel's currently 25 years old. It's of a proprietary nature, much like a computer that isn't manufactured anymore.
That's a simplex panel, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not sure what the name of it was. I have it someplace in here. But if you lose a card, sometimes you can't get a card replaced. You know, they're basically pulling it out of old equipment. So this is not something we want to take any chances with. So we're going to go for a non-proprietary panel, and we actually have a couple of other quotes coming in. I have a list of about 6 vendors, and it's already come down about 10 grand. So we may not even spend that much money. But it's sort of a non-negotiable type thing, other than getting the price down lower.
Is this strictly fire panel? Or is it
Fire panel, control strobe lights, and audio alarms as well. So when it goes off, you have the whole package.
There's no police connection to it, if that's what you were thinking.
And this warrant article is to raise and appropriate. This is not a fund balance warrant article.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Go ahead.
The third warrant article is to put $75,000 into the Special Ed Expendable Trust Fund. As you know, we had $50,000 in the Expendable Trust Fund, and the school district had a public hearing to remove $25,000. So now the balance in that account is $25,000. So we're looking to put money back into that $75,000. That is a fund balance warrant article. The next warrant article is the School Buildings and Grounds Expendable Trust Fund. That's for $24,000. That money comes from the rent from the SAU office building.
That's a wash.
That's a wash, correct.
Can I just ask, how much is in that trust fund right now?
Which ones, I'm sorry?
The article for the school.
11,000.
I'll bring it up to.
We'll be putting $24,000 of rent of this year, and so it'll go up to 36, but there are some additional repairs that are going to be done to the SAU.
Yes, the entryway.
The entry, yeah. Great. And then the last one is the tuition expendable, the tuition expendable trust fund to put $75,000 back into it because we're anticipating having to take 90 out.
Okay.
And then there is a very small trust fund that was created in 2011, and it's that we're asking to discontinue the school health insurance trust. It has approximately $1,000 in it, so we're just asking to discontinue that trust fund.
Okay, make a motion that we present the school warrant articles as published to the public hearing.
Second.
Discussion? Nobody?
The special education trust fund, is that just for special education related?
Yes.
Or can it be used for others?
No, just special education.
Then we'll vote on the motion that Dawn made. All those in favor? Unanimous. I don't have to cut nothing.
Let's do that.
Yes, you may. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Is there any other business?
Mark wants to.
Yes, Mark.
I'd like to go back
Oh,
to
yes.
the town budget. I make a motion that we reduce the bottom line of the town budget by $40,115.
What is your new figure, please?
Well, I haven't figured that total out, but I just added up the deductions that I would make and total
Right, you would-
$40,115.
Okay, you would have to make a motion for each of the deductions for the accounts because it's considered irresponsible for just a bottom line flat reduction.
I thought we would do that. So, under general government, the school box,
Yeah.
Today.
under general government, I recommend we cut supplies by $500, office equipment by $500, staff development by $1,000, town clerk expenses by $2,000, tax office furniture $1,000,
Mark,
longevity.
slow down. Could you give us numbers?
Yeah, slow down,
I can't
Mark.
read these as fast as you're
Okay.
saying. I'll have to write them down.
I don't even know where you
Right,
are.
supplies, $500.
Number, account number, please.
Do you have an extra?
Do you have any extras? Karen, do you have
I
any
can jot
extras?
them. Supplies 500,
Yep,
No, we
All
we
right,
need two
where
more
are
of these.
you?
We need two more of these.
so supplies is on page 2.
Okay. On, I think that's,
It's 01-4130-215.
oh,
Oh, you're in the book?
Yeah, I mean, look,
Oh,
because you asked for each and, you need each individual line.
Somebody needs one?
right here.
Like this?
oh, I got one.
Oh, you got one,
That
okay.
gave it to me.
I think we're going into the book meeting.
okay? So the only thing on page 1 is supplies by 500,
Yeah, keep going. Yeah,
okay?
What page you on in the book, please?
That was page 1.
Page 1.
I think I have one.
It's all day, actually.
okay. Page 3 under, officers' expense,
Page 3.
I recommend the reduction of $500.
Operating expense?
No, officers' expense, that's used for mileage, training, selectmen.
Thank you. Just have to do that. Oh, there it is.
Everything in that purse.
Thank you. In the general government,
Yeah, that's why we reached 3 and don't have it.
I think you're right there.
3. Bingo.
Okay?
Which one, Mark, again, please?
There was-
Page 3.
Page 3, it's officers'
Officers' expenses.
expense by 500.
Okay. How much you want to cut that by?
$500.
Okay.
On page 5,
No, it's like mileage is
Yep. I recommend the reduction of staff development by $1,000.
What's your reasoning?
My reasoning is that, well, several things go into my reasoning. Part of my reasoning is that, as far back as I know of, at least the last 8 to 10 years, the town has never spent more money than was appropriated.
Right.
It changes. I think the lowest amount was that we had returned was 15,000, some years 90,000, a lot depends on snow.
Right, we are not allowed to overspend.
Right, I
That's
understand.
like by law.
The town is currently in financial situation. If the town were to run out for an emergency, all we gotta do is apply and we get, and they'll tell us we do it anyway. So why should we have extra money in the budget, that much extra money in the budget? Generally, we have extra money, sometimes it's close to $100,000.
Okay.
That's been the history since back when I was on the budget committee 15, 20 years ago. So if you talk about budget creep, and people talk about, well, gee, that's a minuscule amount of money. Okay, sometimes it is a minuscule amount of money. But when you look at budget creep and you have a minuscule amount this year, and then you raise that minuscule amount a certain percent the next, it's kind of like compounding. And then you raise it the year after that, and then you raise it the year after that. After a while, you get a lot of money added up. And so all of these reasons are why I say, if we do our job as a budget committee, we can make this budget as tight as we possibly can without jeopardizing the services to the town. I believe this $40,000 number will do that. And I went through the accounts to look. And a lot of what I did is I looked and I said, what did we spend 3 years ago? What did we spend 2 years ago? What did we spend 1 year ago? What was budgeted? How much over did we budget? That was a lot of discretionary money. And I said, you know what? On every one of these lines I've done, it's still more money than the highest we spent for the last 3 years.
Mark, are you talking about staff development? Is that what we're currently
On
talking
page,
about?
Page five.
So according to Marge, she said that she's going to a special class to be certified as a deputy.
Amy is.
Or Amy
That's right.
is. So
Be your backup.
I guess they need that money for that certification. Do you remember that conversation?
That was staff development on page 7.
Right, that's the town clerk staff development. This account was not spent this year because we, at beginning of the year, we were already 45,000 overspent in snow removal. So.
Okay, but in
All of
15
those
we spent
accounts were put on hold.
$14.96, and 16 we spent $859.
Yeah.
So we're not spending the money, so
Right,
why should we budget
intentionally.
that extra $1,000?
Right, we intentionally did not spend it because snow was over and that's an account that you can do without.
There you go, there's an account we can do without.
Then put it back into snow. Then, you know,
Somebody can make a
Karen,
motion if they want to add to
Wait a
it.
minute, Steve.
right, I'm not gonna argue.
Steve, wait a minute, Steve. You done?
That's my
For
recommendation.
now, okay, go ahead, Steve.
If you over budget, any residuals are turned back
Into the fund balance,
to the
correct.
fund balance.
Yeah, and then they're used to offset the tax rate or fund warrant articles the future
Which is-
year.
Which is different than the school.
I understand that, but here's my thought on that. I believe that every dollar that's spent, as much as humanly possible, should be voted on by the people of the town. If there's extra money in this budget, and I'm not talking about current administration, I'm talking about setting precedents, because I can tell you over the last 30 years that I've been in town, there's been money spent on the town budget on things that were not approved. Let me take the most recent one I can think of. My understanding, I wasn't on the budget committee at the time, but the people in town that I've asked the question is, the line on here that's longevity, I don't believe that, was that discussed before that happened with the budget committee? Before.
No, it was not. It
It
was
was
part of the
not.
personnel policy, that's the purview of the Board of Selectmen.
It is, but that's something that easily, the Board of Selectmen could have said, we want to do this. Let's put it in next year's budget and let the town vote on it.
They did.
Was it discussed?
I don't know if that line item was a discussion of the
My
budget committee.
understanding was it was not, and I don't think that's right. I don't think it's right to be able to spend money that the town, that hasn't been transparent, that the people of the town don't know. This is where we're spending the money. I just don't believe that's the way it should be, and I don't believe as a budget committee, we're doing our job if we allow that kind of money to be in there. If there's an emergency, fine, we go and we say it's an emergency. If we get 72 snowstorms and have to remove snow, fine, you go and you say, hey, this is an emergency, okay, there's the money. But if it's not an emergency, the people of the town should get to vote on that money being spent. And I don't care if it's $1. And I believe the proposals I'm making will not negatively affect the operation of the town.
Okay, Pat, you have.
Just 2 quick points. Steve, if we do come under our budget, that money does go back to the state to help reduce taxation.
A certain percentage.
All of it.
Well, they don't keep it.
All of it goes back, Steve.
We gave back
After-
money.
After your unassigned fund balance is filled.
Right, well, our unassigned fund balance is full now.
Full.
So all of it, unless we have a warrant article that is designated to be paid out of any reserves that we have. So say it was 25K for the special ed, we'd pay that, then everything goes back to the state.
Okay, so, but that's because of the unassigned fund balance has been filled.
Not necessarily.
Prior to that,
Not necessarily, because we basically we've gone for several years with the unassigned fund balance at about $180,000, our reserve. So we just increased it in the past year or so up to 242. But everything else goes back to the town. As a matter of fact, 267,000 went back last year. And then my only other question is, which I don't want to interrupt your passionate speech. No, but do you expect to revisit anything else on the school budget so I can let these people go?
I'm going to be going back.
Oh, okay. All right then.
Yes, you too.
Hey, Bob?
Yes.
Let him finish his motion so we can get going here tonight.
Yes. Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, so that was staff development. On page 7, under town clerk expenses, I recommend a deduction of $2,000. Yep. On the same page, under town office equipment, furniture, supplies, I recommend a deduction of $1,000.
So that is concerning the class for Amy to become a deputy.
yes.
So do you feel as if she should not be certified for that position?
No. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say no, I don't believe that Amy shouldn't be qualified, but I believe there's still enough money left in that budget. The budget is asking for $4,304. I believe there was a $700, they said for $700 if possible. Oh, no, I'm talking about town clerk office expenses, $2,000. What you're talking about, the staff development town clerk, is a different line. I'm not recommending a cut to that line.
Okay.
I'm recommending a cut to the town clerk office.
So are you on page 7, just to be clear?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and,
If you look at page 8, there's the breakdowns.
okay.
Okay, so under staff development town clerk, that's where we're sending the extra clerk. That's why initially I was going to recommend a cut of $1,000 to that line, but then we got the explanation of why they needed that much money, and I said, okay, that's fine, that's a fine explanation.
On your tax office supplies, how much did you say on that?
Tax.
That's the furniture.
Yeah, tax office equipment, furniture, supplies, $1,000. Okay. And I recommend, and I'm going to ask Karen for a minute. Karen, where's the longevity line?
Under personnel administration, which is page 15.
Okay.
The last line in that account.
Right, and I believe that, I make a recommendation that we cut that line by $750 because I think, when we were talking about the other day, we found that there was $750 and then more. In other words, somebody was leaving that wasn't gonna get it, which would be that $750.
Yep, that one I have no problem with. Sorry.
On page 17, under consultants, I recommend a reduction of $1,000.
That's for the planning board, for master plan help or whatever they're working on.
No, you can't do that. Not for the planning board.
Well, what I want to know then is, they're asking for $2,550. In 2015, they spent $564. In 2016, they spent $0. And so far this year, they've spent $585.
Right.
So the record is less than $500 a year over the last 3 years, and we're still be leaving them $1,500. We're still leaving them more than enough money.
Right. This year we were able to get a grant. We had a new chapter of the master plan done for the Sea Rise and sustainability that I was able to get a grant for.
For each of the last 3 years?
For last year.
Some of that we get reimbursed.
How much was the grant?
$3,700 worth of consultant work. We had a public hearing down at the Hugh Gregg Center for the residents to learn about Sea Rise and the impacts to our zoning ordinances.
And have we applied for the grant this year?
We're still working on the current one.
Okay,
You want to reduce that by how much, Mark?
$1,000. And under, same page, under advertising, I recommend a reduction of $500.
Ooh.
I don't recommend that.
Nope.
That's cutting
It's based on what applies. This has been a very quiet year for the zoning board. There hasn't been a lot of cases. So they haven't had any meetings, but that money is then reimbursed by the applicant with their application
That's an in
fee.
and out.
Okay, now
It's an in and
my
out.
numbers, correct me if I'm wrong, but in 15, they spent $2,569.
Yep,
2016, they spent $2,235. If you reduce this line by $500, they still have enough to cover those, what that is. Do we expect it to go up that much more this year?
you're on advertising zoning? Advertising zoning is only budgeted at 1,000.
Advertising,
Yeah,
line,
ZBA is 1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And advertising planning, 2190.
okay, well, but the 2 lines come up to 3190.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only expenses would be public hearings for changes in the ordinances.
Yeah, okay, still, so if you go back under actual spend 2016 and you add those 2 lines, 1383 and 852, you get what, 2235. So you can take 250 out of each line, 500 out of one of them, it doesn't matter to me. My recommendation is you take $500 out of average, because they can spend the money on either of those 2 lines. As long as they have the money, they can spend it on whatever lines they want. I'm saying between those 2 lines, there's $500 more than we need in those 2 lines. And where did I leave off?
That's enough.
Under page 19. Under gas and propane, I recommend a reduction of $1,000. Same page, under maintenance town property, I recommend a reduction of $2,000. Under page 21, I recommend a reduction of $3,000 under supplies.
The cemetery supplies?
Line 0141952215.
Cemetery supplies,
Cemetery.
3,000?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll interject here, this, unless somebody can tell me otherwise, but these are the kind of things where, at last meeting, somebody said something about, you know, I know how budgets work, you get so much this year, so you add a couple of dollars the next year after that, and add another. So I'm not saying that happens, but.
Right, these have been flat, the 9,700's been a flat amount for several years.
Yeah.
So for the last $41, $0, 101, so we budget $3,600, I have real difficulty with numbers like that.
Right, and that was as of 10/24.
So how much was
Just
it?
say, Mark, on the gas cut, you recommended gas prices are expected to go up next year, so it's something to consider.
How much up on that line, Mark?
Which line are you talking about now, Bob?
The supplies.
$3,000.
3,000.
A reduction of $3,000, it still leaves them $600, which is well more than they've spent in the last 3 years.
Is that it?
And so on the general government, I believe that would come to $12,250.
Well, why don't you go after contracted services? That was 0. And then 5450.
I had a comment here, what had contracted services?
Karen, do you know why they asked for that?
Yep, because they $4,000 to plant trees along the side of the school, along the
Right,
fence, now that the
right.
stumps have been removed.
Right, and that's, because I had a note here.
But not the kind of trees that are gonna
No.
grow and be dangerous again.
What was
Okay,
the total, Mark?
$12,250 from general government.
Under the general fund, I just want to say something on the maintenance of town property. One of my pet peeves is over the last 10 plus years, there has been no real maintenance of town property. So I really hate to see something like that get cut. If you haven't noticed a fire station with the grass growing on the roof, the holes on the side, that's because we haven't been doing our job. So I really wouldn't want to see anything cut from maintenance of town property.
Obviously, if I may respond to that. A lot of these cuts, I also said, we have to look at the whole town. We know the school is gonna cost us money. And we know that. So we gotta try and find every dollar we can, no matter what. There are things in the budget to fix things in the town hall and that type of thing. We know we're looking down the road at fire building and that type of stuff. And those things are gonna come, we gotta find a way to cut the dollar someplace. I believe that's a way to find it. And as I drive around town, I think this certainly isn't the Taj Mahal, but, by any means. But the town doesn't look like, a ghetto. I think there's enough money in the budget. That's the way I feel. That's my reason for these proposals. Okay, under police. So page 27. I propose that we cut the supplies line $500. My reasoning there, this is a 15% increase over 2016 actual. We need to find a way. I don't want to kill the police, but there's $5,700 allocated in that line. I cannot believe that we cannot supply them for $5,200. Under tires, I recommend that which would be page 29. I make a recommendation that we cut that line by $500.
Which line is that?
Third line. Tires,
Tires.
account 223.
Yep.
By how much? $500?
$500.
Is there a reason for that?
Yeah,
Have you
what's the
priced
reason?
out tires?
Well, in 2015, the town spent $2,095 on tires. 2016, $3,129 on tires. I don't know what they're gonna buy, what they bought by the end of the year, but
Right.
as of 10/24, they spent $0.
Right, and they've been bought, it's generally October, November when we do buy them, when we buy the snows, when we buy the new tires and they change the snows.
So I don't know what the bill is this year, but if we cut that line $500,
don't
it
have
still
it with
gives
me.
them as much money as they've had the last 3, as they spent the last 3 years.
Okay.
It still gives them that much money.
Bob?
Yes.
Make a mention that on these all-wheel drive vehicles,
I know.
when you change one tire, you have to change all of them.
That's right. Whoa, time out.
Yeah.
You wanna cut $500 off of that?
I do.
I don't recommend that. Whatever.
My response to that would be $500 is minuscule. Let's save the taxpayers $500 rather than put an extra $500. I can't believe the town won't be able to operate for $500. Under building, same line, under building maintenance, I recommend a reduction of $350. Under cruiser repair, I recommend a reduction of $500. On page 31, under conference fees, I recommend a reduction of $1,000. And that's all on the police, and that, if my math is correct, that was $2,850 on an $800,000 budget. I don't think it'll kill it. Moving on to fire. On page 35, I recommend a reduction of $1,000.
For what?
On the replacement of equipment. And if you add up what they listed as equipment they want to replace, and you look at the expenses over the last 3 years, well, 15 was high, but in 16 they spent a little over $10,000, and as of 10/24, they spent a little over $10,000. So if we were to cut that by $1,000, it still leaves them $15,000. Which is in the vicinity of $5,000 more than they've spent the last 2 years. Under training, and there was a couple things under training, but this particular line, 289, I recommend a reduction of $2,000. The reason being that would still leave them $3,600 on that line. In 2015, they spent $2,027. In 16, they spent $1,679. And so far in 17, they spent $525. I don't see where that extra money is needed. I heard no explanation under that line that would require that much money under that line.
Was that training, you say?
Yep.
Well, they just hired I believe they hired a new officer recently? No?
No.
This is fire department, no.
Oh, I'm sorry, got your hand.
Continuing under fire, under fire prevention, I recommend a reduction of $400. You want to know how much they've spent on that line over the last 3 years? 0. So why is it $500 on the budget? So I recommend we put 400 of it. Moving to line 37. under maintenance communication equipment, I recommend a reduction of $500. Same page, under pagers and portable radios, I recommend a reduction of $2,000. And I believe that's a total of $4,900. Moving on to building and emergency management, page 41. Under civil defense, and I understand this is something that could go wacky, but I'm making a reduction. I recommend a reduction on the civil defense expenses of $5,000. They've asked for $25,000 the last 3 years. The actual has been a little under $14,000, a little under $12,000, and as of 10/24, $7,300. So that seems to be, $25,000 seems to be a rather large contingency that we can't afford. So I recommend reduction of $5,000 to $20,000 rather than $25,000.
That's another wash item that they get reimbursed for.
That's fine, they still can get reimbursed, but by budgeting $25,000 rather than $20,000, that leaves $5,000 discretionary money that can be spent that the people in the town don't get to vote on that $5,000. And I don't believe that should happen. Moving down to Public Works. Under drainage, I recommend a reduction of $5,000, which would be page 45. Lost my place here.
What was your reasoning behind the $5,000 for
Under drainage?
Yeah. We have line flushing, 5,000. Replacement of catch basins, grates, 5,000. Emergency needs, 5,000.
Cameron, can you tell me what the current expenses for drainage, or what the expenses for drainage were last ending December 31st?
No, I cannot. Not without reopening up the laptop and getting into the QuickBooks system right now.
I just don't know, like line flushing, do they do it every 5 years, every 3 years? Did they budget it for it last year? Is it due now?
It's done on an annual basis.
Annual basis, so.
Yeah, and it probably came out of maintenance roads this year instead.
Gotcha.
And this is where the snowplow is ahead of the line. We budgeted 390. As of October 16th, we had spent 442. And we are now, as of last week, we had about 27,000 left in the budget total, grand total.
Okay, that's fine. We can.
That's what will lapse, is about 27,000. Well, maybe not, depending on what the last salt bills haven't come in.
On page 43, under care of trees, I recommend a reduction of $2,000.
What page?
Where?
Okay.
Going back or?
43.
Under what?
It actually, it's a few pages after. It goes like 47, 49, 43. Just the way it's set up, sorry.
That's how I count, yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
You must have high school.
Reeling first.
Do we still have that project up
You have
off of
enough
Hickory? So that might be a problem, we've got some,
Right, we have
ash
two
borers
scheduled
we
to come
gotta
down on
deal
Straddle
with,
Lane right now, but
which is
that'll
not
hit
gonna be
next
cheap.
year.
In this particular instance, normally I agree with you, but this time I have to say we do have to keep that in there. Because we can't cut them down ourselves, they're too big.
And on the same page, under engineering expense, I recommend a reduction of $2,000. So under public works, I believe that total will come to $9,000. Under welfare, page 57. Under property tax referral, I recommend a reduction of $1,000.
What page?
Page 57.
Did you say 1,000?
1,000. That would still leave them $24,000. In 15, we spent $20,600. In 16, we spent $21,600. As of 10/24, it was about $11,000.
Right, that'll be at the 21, 22 range as well, because the taxes are paid in June and for December 1st.
Yeah, so $24,000, in my mind, is still plenty in that category. Under recreation and culture, page 59, under part-time labor, a recommended reduction of $1,100. Under damages, I recommend a reduction of $500.
Okay, on part-time labor, that kid was hired late
I
in the
understand.
season, plus there's been an increase in his pay, so that's gonna explain the difference there. On the kid.
Part-time labor. Yep. So we budgeted $8,100. And this Danny was hired late, but, and I don't know, I don't think that bill probably changed much from 10/24 to now.
He worked about till the middle of October, November, picking up the leaves, and then he was done for the season.
Right, so it didn't, and that, the number at that point was $4,518.
Yeah.
And we got budget in there, $8,100.
Yeah,
Seems like
they
a
didn't
lot of
overspend it, he could only go up to
contingency money there for
6480, yeah.
So, and if we run out of money, well, I guess we won't have the part-time person the month of November next year.
Yep.
Yeah, we don't, I don't think we'll run out of money, right? But I still don't think we'll run out with $7,000 in that line.
In between his umpiring gigs.
You only pick up the wood.
On page 63, under conservation education, I recommend a reduction of $100. They've spent in the last 3 years $0, $75, and $0. We've still given them $200 to spend there. And I also, and I don't know if my math would work out correct, but I recommend a reduction of $3,415, and where that would come from is in salaries. Instead of giving a 3% raise to all the employees, a 2.75% raise, the same as the school's offering to their people that are not under contract. Let's keep them both the same. 2.75 the school people raises, 2.75 the town people raises. And that's my motion. Comes to a total of $40,115.
Can I ask a question on those schools, the salaries last year? Were they also at the 2.75? Is that contracted out the same per year since you've had the contract? For the
So it would be
non-salary?
for the recommended increases, at least for the last 3 years, have been anywhere between 2.5 and 2.75 for non-union.
No, okay.
Right.
But do you remember what it was?
I'm sorry?
And what is the union increase?
3.
Governed by collective bargaining. So in the case of Greenland, we're currently in the second year of a 5-year agreement.
It runs between about 2.7% to 3%.
Yeah.
3% per year, based upon the reduction in some of their salaries. Not salaries, in some of their benefit package.
And as I explained at the last session you had, the variance is attributable to folks on step. So if you are on step within the salary structure, you realize an increase from step 5 to step 6, let's say, plus the COLA. So that's the slight variation, anywhere between, as Chair said, 2.8 to 3.0.
Thank you.
It looks like the library only went up 2.35%.
It's calculated at a 3% increase, but it doesn't start till March, so.
Okay.
So you feel that the townspeople that work for us should get less than union people? So that's basically what you're saying, is the school has contracted people, they're getting close to 3%, sometimes a little better, a little lower, depending on their longevity, and you want the town to get less than 3%, employees to get less than 3% because they're not union under contract.
Well,
that's basically what I hear you saying.
This is the way I looked at it. The most money any individual would lose would be over the total of the year, $193. And the teachers' union people, that's a negotiated, contracted thing. That the budget committee can tell the town, don't agree to that. The school board can negotiate, which they do, with the teachers' union and say, hey, we're not gonna give you that much. The town can vote not to give them that much. The people that aren't union are getting a 2.75% raise.
I need to correct you on something. The budget committee cannot tell anybody anything.
No, okay.
We can recommend.
Recommend.
Townspeople.
I stand corrected.
Townspeople.
I
The
agree.
people who go to the polls
I agree
will vote
100%.
for a contract or a non-contract. Okay.
Agreed.
I know, I've been on both sides of the negotiating table, and believe me.
I stand corrected.
There's a little more, a lot more to that.
But I would rather not put it the way you did. I would put it the way it is. The town is facing severe stress on the budget. So 2.75%, given those circumstances, given the fact that everybody's taxes going up, I think it's a fair raise. And I think it's a fair raise in the business world. Unless you're a CEO, that's the way corporate America works now.
What 1,700.
What percentage?
1,700. That's what, if we moved up 0.25%, it would.
Right, but what, in the agreement that you have with the teachers, do they pay for their own health insurance?
They pay a portion.
What portion, do you know?
It's approximately 15 between 15 and 20% now.
15, 20%. What is the town?
Pass.
12.
12%.
And,
I'm just, I mean,
Yeah,
it seems like we're, I'm trying to prove a point that we're tic-tacking, right? All right.
Debbie, you had a question.
I was going to say that I do hear what Jamie is saying, but I don't think a lot of other people are gonna hear what Jamie's saying. And so I want to add that I think that Mark makes he makes 39 great points. And I'm afraid that those 39 great points are maybe lost because of the last point. And I don't want to see the first 39 points that you made get lost because of the last one. So I'm wondering, would you consider taking away that last suggested cut and keeping all the rest of your cuts from your motion and putting that motion on the table? And I feel like that would be more palpable for people.
I'm not willing to give the town an extra $3,400. If they want to give the employees that much of a raise, that's fine with me. Find it someplace else in the budget.
That's your answer?
That's my answer.
Would it make you feel better if we paid the non-union people the 3%? I mean, realistically.
We only have 11, no.
No, we're gonna get it from both sides here, you know? So I get the same kind of pushback that the folks in town get. I'd love to give these guys that are making, these people that are making $14 for walking around a kid with the flu all day and having them throw up in the hallway, you know? Seriously, that's the type of stuff, that's what they're getting. So, you know, that's something for the budget committee to consider.
Somebody had their hand up? No?
Well, I might as well say it. This is fine. The same thing should have been done for the school budget.
And anybody had a chance to do that?
Well, it's a lot easier to pick off here than it is in the school budget.
And it was, you made a motion to deduct $200,000, which we did work on. So it was not like we didn't do it, Steve.
Thank you.
Was that a motion you made?
Yeah, so my motion is to add all those up. The motion is to reduce the town budget by $40,000. Karen, I don't know if you checked my math, but I believe it's $40,115.
And it was seconded?
I don't know if anybody seconded it.
Anybody second it?
I'll second.
Who seconds it?
I do.
Randy seconds that motion. Okay. All in favor of that motion? All those against it? The motion is defeated. Is there anything else you want to say?
My comment would be, if we allow the budget to go, I don't know how many items there were, but if we allow the budget to go as it was presented to us, I don't have any hard feelings, and please don't anybody take this personally, but I don't believe we're doing as good a job as a budget committee as we should.
Thank you.
Well, see, there were a lot of things that I liked. There were a lot of things that I didn't. So it was hard for me to say yes to the whole thing. That's the only reason why I voted no.
Okay.
I agree with you.
I agree with that.
I agree with you also, but if you were, because we had a meeting where we said we're not gonna go by line. So I did it on my own, I went by line.
And I commend you for it.
Now, on any of those, whether you disagree with any one of those or not, you could go through some of those and make those reductions bigger. So that I don't believe that $40,000 figure is unfair. Whether it's from this line or this line or this line, sure, maybe they'll need a couple more dollars in this line than that line. But the bottom line is the total budget could be $40,000 less, and it would not negatively affect the town at all, and they would be able to operate with the amount of money they have. And so why not make it that number? That's my feeling. That's all.
The vote was taken.
Yeah.
So,
So Karen, by law, we had to do it by,
Right, and now you can say, all right, the general government line,
I have a motion.
you know, you can do it by sections, but it's irresponsible of the budget committee to do just the bottom line.
But how come they could do that for the schools?
exactly.
Why could they do that for the school budget?
It's not appropriate to do for any budget.
Why could they do that twice for the school budget though?
That's the recommendation from DRA is it's not appropriate, it's not the budget committee doing their job by just throwing out a number.
It's
You
not
find it.
illegal, it's just not
Right.
appropriate.
we're not supposed to.
Right.
For the record.
Before
For the
we,
record.
before we leave the town, are we gonna talk about the warrant stuff or, at all or not? We
The
did,
warrant
we
articles?
did, the warrant articles.
Did we vote on it?
No.
Well, we discussed the school one.
That's all we're gonna discuss.
Right, the selectmen have to do
Selectmen
it
are gonna
first.
finalize it yet.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, the selectmen will be
Hasn't
doing
been
them on
finalized.
Monday
All I
night.
wanted to know.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, okay. I'd like to go back to the school.
You wanna go back to the school?
I do.
Oh,
So I just want to say thank you to the school board for going back, and because I know it was painstaking to have to find the money to take out of the budget, because I do understand that the school budget, much like the town budget, is tight. And with that being said, I appreciate what you're willing to give up, what you're willing to burden the parents with, et cetera. However, I don't feel comfortable with taking $90,000 out of the PHS tuition because I have a feeling that that will cause you to take money out of the operating budget, which I don't think they'll have. So my motion is to vote $90,000 back into this proposed budget.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
First of all, we got a warrant article which passes every year that will restore that money.
But not in its entirety based on how many they've had this year.
Every year, it's a projection, and it materializes or not. And so, you can make the motion, but I'm not gonna vote for it.
That's your prerogative.
Yeah, I will say, Steve, I think if we were to get the $90,000 back, I think the school board will revisit that, that warrant article. Because we were more concerned about special education this year than the tuition, until we had to take out $90,000. So at least I can tell you that I think the school board would be willing to do that if we got the $90,000 back.
Any other discussion? Okay, let's take a vote. Who is in favor of the motion that Kristen presented? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. 7-4. Motion has been passed.
Wait a minute,
Yeah, that's.
Record against.
Well, you don't have to.
well,
7-4.
Can't stop the ballot box when you get caught.
Have to do it.
Have to do it, fine, but who's against it? 3 against?
I would like my vote recorded.
You just did.
I have a motion. I would like to, the school budget again, with reference to the 2 line items for the athletic trips and field trips, that the onus is going to go back to the parents. It's a total of $10,391. I am concerned that this will be somewhat of a discriminatory, it'll have somewhat of a discriminatory effect on some of the children who won't be able to afford to go on some of these field trips or some of these athletic trips. And these aren't going to be all high school students who will be able to afford to get a job to pay for these field trips or athletic trips. These will be elementary school children who won't be able to, Johnny won't be able to go to the farm to pick a pumpkin, but Sally will. And so that will be a difficult thing for a child to have happen to them. So I'm afraid that if we take out this money for these two line items, which will hardly affect the bottom line at all, but will really affect some little kids in our community, I feel like that won't really be doing a good job as a committee too. So my motion is to put $10,391 back into the school budget to pay for the athletic trips and field trips.
Seconded,
I'll second it.
discussion? Mark?
I guess I can't speak for the school board or the principal or the school administration, but I don't believe they would allow that to happen. Either everybody would go on a field trip or nobody, they wouldn't have the field trip.
I agree.
May I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
So how would that happen? Like if a teacher says, we're gonna take a field trip, it's a part of the curriculum, it's an important piece of learning, and how would the school determine whether or not it would happen or not? Would they just say, you know what, I don't think this child is gonna be able to afford it, so we shouldn't do it? Or would then the teacher pay for that child to go on the field trip? Who's gonna pay for it?
Well, I don't know why you're asking us that question. We're not the ones that would make that decision. You
Well,
need to ask that to the school board.
Well, I guess I'm asking the budget committee to consider that. I mean, if that happens, then, you know, maybe that is something that could be considered. Who would actually end up paying for it? It could be a teacher, or a teacher's aide who's getting $14 a day.
Yes, Dawn?
I think unfortunately, the principal and the vice principal left too early because that probably would have been a good question while they were still here. I don't think there's anybody unless the superintendent of schools can answer for the administrative part of
Well,
the school.
certainly we would not put the district, the board, the town in any jeopardy with regard to any discriminatory practices. However, rest assured that if push came to shove where a particular teacher wanted to take a group of students on a field trip to enhance what was being taught in the curriculum in the classroom, we would make a concerted effort that all 20 students in that particular grade attend the field trip. So as superintendent, my role is to prevent, as Ms. Kale's raising a very good point, we're going to prevent discriminatory practice from happening, certainly.
Well, I'll tell you now that, parents already do pay a small portion of field trips now, like a $9 per student, and it's like usually tickets or something like that. And so, no big deal, $9. But let's say it is a big deal. Let's say I $9. Let's say I have 2 or 3 kids in school. Let's say that is a little bit of a stretch. Let's say there's 2 or 3 or 4 field trips a semester. Let's say I don't have that many, and so I have to say to Johnny and Sally, you know, you're going to be absent that day, or whatever the case is. I mean, I'm sure that happens. Agreement. I mean, I don't think that everybody is privy to like having an extra $50 all the time.
I guess the question is, what field trips are these that you're talking about?
Yeah,
So they go to
No, what I'm getting at is, you're talking, if a field trip has been established, okay, as part of the curriculum, there must be some planning going in so that this doesn't happen, okay? You're talking about parents, you know, voluntary school trips where they have to invest into the program, you know, they send a note home and said, if your kid wants to go on this trip, you gotta send $15 back in a check.
Well,
okay, is this something that happens and if this child doesn't have this money, is there money in this budget to pay for that kid? Is that and that's the money you're trying to restore. If that money is needed and the school board can answer that question, I would consider it. But if not, I don't know why you need the money if it's already set up, if there's a program set up. And again, we don't have
Well,
the,
like, I know there are reoccurring field trips in fourth grade. They always go to the State House. They always go to Strawberry Bank at Thanksgiving time. Are these placed into the budget because they happen every year in fourth grade? Or are they pop-up? Are they in the budget?
They are.
They are. So it sounds like those field trips are covered. So it sounds like the field trips we're talking about are the ones that are kind of last minute, oh, you know,
No,
Annie's
it's-
coming to
well-
town at Music Hall, let's get tickets.
I don't
Wait a minute.
think.
Whoa.
Hey, Bob,
Whoa, are you done?
I'm finished.
Go ahead.
this is something that actually be very good questions for the public hearing, when the school board is here to answer them. Because I don't know, I wouldn't even be here to answer them. I don't, then you get the answers.
No, but what I did state earlier though was that, you know, Tamara and her team are going to revisit all of the field trips that they have over a school year and to see, you know, prioritize. Because we did feel comfortable enough, and I appreciate you offering to give this back to me, right? We did feel comfortable enough to look at the field trips to see that perhaps if there was some opportunity for efficiency here. But we've never, you know, we would never discriminate against them.
No, I'm not saying that the school board or the school would, but what I'm saying is it would happen implicitly when that note would go home to say it costs $15 instead of $5 this year, because there's no money in the budget because we didn't put it in there. This year, so last year it cost $9 to go to the pumpkin patch, this year it's cost $20, that's what I'm talking about.
Have a fundraiser.
We already do have fundraisers.
Okay.
And then on,
Is it out of line for me to ask to speak?
No, I'll allow it, go ahead.
Marcia McLaughlin, I can't speak definitively for the Women's Club, however, I know that we have a standing policy with the school that when there is a need, the $10,000 that we earn each year from our craft fair and pie fest is available. And we want it to be local and measurable.
Thanks, we'll take it. I'm
No,
sorry.
just to add to her, you have the veterans here in town too. We do a lot. Okay. Yes, Pat?
If the issue came up, if we could always put a note at the bottom, if this presents a problem to anybody, please contact the teacher on a private basis, and somehow we would make sure that student was not called out, or, you
That's
know.
always put in.
Yeah, there you go, so.
Okay.
sorry, Bob, one last comment. And on the athletic trips, it's the same thing. We're actually having, participation levels are down. And so our anticipation is that we may not be able to field some teams next year. We also feel some of our opponents aren't able to field teams either, like Rye. So I think there's some opportunities here where we think we may be able to reduce that budget. I would have other priorities on this list, but we're there. But we're good. Thank you.
Okay, there was a motion on the floor, and it was seconded. All those in favor of the motion that Timmy made? Charlotte, we have one. Those against?
I'll vote. I'm sorry, I'll vote.
Come on, make up your mind. Are you voting for it?
Yes.
Oh, you didn't make up your mind.
For school board, yes.
Okay, so there's two. Those against? Okay, so there's what, 8? 8 against and 2 for it. Undefeated, okay? Is there any other discussion? Any other business? If not, I will close this meeting.
Move to adjourn.
Wait a minute. Yes,
So,
Kelly.
what Amy will prepare for you is a budget that reflects the 90,000 going in, and then we will meet, and the board will meet and take away that warrant article, assume that the 90 grand is going back in.
Discuss.
Just let.
Discuss, yeah.
Yeah, just let Charlotte know. Oh, I had
Well,
it.
Amy will do it and she'll pass it on.
Just can't guarantee anything. There's 5 of us.
Okay, I have one more duty to perform. Steve was in a hurry. I'll give him the first one. These are the budgets that we're gonna discuss.
No, those are the town warrant
Oh,
articles.
town warrants out, I'm sorry.
The Board of
Town warrants.
Selectmen has not voted to recommend or not recommend as yet.
No, it's been done with them.
Right, you may not see all of those at public hearings, some of them may go away prior to that. The numbers are definitely a draft. Do not run out and have signs made, vote yes for Article, or vote no for Article 7, because that could become 12. Fair warning. I don't want to see support the library, vote yes on 7, and it becomes 4.
Okay, meeting has been closed, time is 20 minutes of 9. Thank you, everybody. Next meeting is next school. At the school. 6:30 at the school.
All right, thank you, everybody.